Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Molly,
I'm Michael.
and today we're really excited to be talking about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City season 5 finale, which we just got this past week. And there's a lot to talk about here. We watched the uncensored version on Peacock, so lots to unpack. So, shall we get started?
Yeah, I love watching an uncensored Real Housewives episode. There's just something about it that the TV censored version just quite can't quite grasp the same energy that an extended uncensored episode on Peacock does. So, loved watching it that way. Actually, I watched it both ways, so I enjoyed both. But
Yeah.
Peacock version was a little top tier.
Yes. Well, I hope you guys all watch that version as well because that's the one I saw and that was amazing. But first up, in the beginning of the episode, we see they're also obviously they're still in Puerto Vallarta on their trip. I feel like they've been there forever right now.
Yeah, Salt Lake does this weird thing where they always end their seasons at the cast trip, or at least the last 2 seasons they've done it, which is not usual for housewives. Usually they come back after their trip and have like a whole extravagant finale party. But Salt Lake, I feel like I don't know if they've meant to do it this way both of these seasons or if it's just kind of happened where like this dinner is so crazy that like it just works out that way that they're like we don't need to film more. Like we've got all we need.
yeah. Oh, I know. That's what I mean. I've only watched these last 2 seasons, so I didn't know if that was a consistent thing, but I did realize that it was the same thing that happened last season too. So,
Yeah. But, like,
um,
that with Orange County, you saw that that wasn't the
oh,
case. So,
yeah.
uh, yeah, that's not usual, but it works for them.
Yeah. And they get the drama. Uh, but first up, the more tame part of this episode was when we saw Heather and Meredith having breakfast, where Meredith reveals she got a scratched cornea, and then they rehashed the argument from the night before, where Meredith was yelling at Heather about saying that Meredith wasn't supporting Bronwyn about her marital issues because Meredith has experienced that of being on the other side of having those cheating rumors accused against her. So there was a lot, just I feel like kind of yelling going on there, conversation happening. But what were your
Yeah.
thoughts on that, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, put the Salt Lake City Housewives in spacesuits next season, or like they need surgical goggles on their faces because what is it with these women and their eye injuries? I mean, Heather 2 years ago famously had her black eye that allegedly was caused by Jen. Who knows if we're ever going to get the full truth on that? But yeah, and then now Meredith wakes up with scratched cornea. I mean, it's wild. I don't know what it is with these women, but they need protection with their eyes at least at all costs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that whole argument, it was total miscommunication, I think, on both sides. It classic drunk late night argument where people just kind of hear one little part of a conversation, misconstrue it, and it ends up ruining the whole night. But I would have loved to see them do the investigation with the recording device in Meredith's room. So they were going to do an audio test. I'm very curious what that was going to be. So I'm sad that we missed out on that because that was a whole funny storyline from last week that seems like they meant to continue on. So I'm sure that would have caused a whole scene with Brittany and who knows. But we still got quite a night, quite an episode that they didn't even need it to make every episode killer this season.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I feel like that would have been interesting to see that if they went more into that, the investigation of the video camera or whatever surveillance she thought was going on there. But yeah, obviously what you said, we didn't really need that because there was enough going on. But so next up in the episode, we see that the women all dress up as Lisa for lunch and they're wearing wigs and do their best impressions of Lisa. And Lisa thinks that they're all funny until it gets to Whitney, and Whitney has the tags on her clothes, and she did that purposefully because she then wants to claim to Lisa that she thinks that she's fake. She did this as her way of bringing up the drama here, I guess, in that she did it on purpose, but then also wanted Lisa to notice, and she did. Lisa did notice, and just says that she said that Lisa borrows and returns all her clothes, but Lisa is like, that's not what I do at all. And then they get into a screaming match, and it just was messy all around there. But
Yeah.
honestly, like, it was funny. Like, before I got to that point, I was like really enjoying this lunch. I was like, oh wow, they're actually all getting along, and Lisa's enjoying this. But obviously, she does not like Whitney. So anything Whitney says, I feel like she's already going to be combative about, which, I
Right.
mean, like, so it was on Whitney also for causing that and stirring up that pot there. But I don't know. What were your thoughts overall on that?
Yeah, I mean, it did seem like Lisa was laughing at Whitney's impression until Whitney turned around. So, like, I do think that Lisa was intending to keep it light, keep it fun in that moment, until, of course, it became clear that Whitney was trying to start a fight. And look, I mean, I think that Whitney is a necessary component of this cast. I don't want her to go anywhere. I know a lot of people kind of in the back half of the season have said, like, where's Whitney? Whitney's not doing a whole lot. And people are saying, should she be demoted? And then first half of the season, Meredith wasn't around too much, and so people were saying, should Meredith be demoted? I think we have to give these people some time. Like, not everybody is going to have an A+ episode and like be the A story every episode all season long. So you can't just start calling for people to be fired or demoted every time they have like 2 episodes in a row where they're not the central focus. And I think we saw that here. I mean, Whitney was clearly a huge part of this episode. And I think that she's an integral piece to this puzzle of why this cast is working so well, because she clearly makes Lisa just go bonkers. But she was clearly trying to start a fight here. Like, just because I think she's an important piece of the puzzle doesn't mean that I can't see that she's probably wrong in this situation and caused this drama. But it was funny. This is the type of light shade, light drama. Are you borrowing your clothes? Like, that's the type of drama that we love on Housewives. It's personal enough, a big enough accusation to make the other person like go crazy, but it's light enough that it's not illegal. It's not anything that's going to ruin a marriage, ruin their life, ruin their kids' life. Like, nothing like that. It's light enough. It's fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, agreed. And it was funny also, I realized watching it, Lisa in the beginning of before she even saw the tags, like commented on how Whitney's Tom Ford was like 5 seasons old or something, or
Oh
like,
yeah, because she wore that like in a different color. I think like those pants like in season 2 or something. So she was saying like those are 3 years old.
yeah. No, which was funny too, because then we got more of the outfit conversation. So they kept that in there, obviously, to like, I think, foreshadow it in a way of being
Yeah.
like, okay, the outfit here is important. But it was a good part of the episode. But I feel like, I mean, obviously we got some more tea later on, but that was at least some lightheartedness that also turned into more drama. But it was fun to watch.
Yeah.
But next up, this part was not too dramaful, but we had that the ladies went horseback riding and then they made ceviche. So just some
There
fun.
was
Oh,
yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of drama here in the sense that, when they were still back at the dinner that, Brittany tried to pipe in defending Lisa,
mhm,
and, then they got into the whole situation about Brittany recording them on the bus the week before, and Brittany runs off crying, and, Angie gets up to follow her, and
yeah.
then Mary gets super upset with Angie because she feels like she's taking Brittany's side, and Mary and Brittany have never gotten along. And so that starts to make Mary feel like Angie isn't loyal. So they talk about that during the horseback riding ceviche situation. Mary talks to the other women about all that. So we did get a bit of drama there.
Yeah, with that part of the conversation, I feel like they kind of smoothed it over pretty quickly, though, or like eventually later on. So I kind of forgot about that in the moment because I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
oh, yeah, like I guess it was important to Mary that she didn't like that. Angie was gonna go and defend Brittany and not choose her side in that. And like I think Angie didn't think of it like indirectly. She was just trying to be like a nice person, not like thinking that she was hurting Mary like that. So obviously wasn't ideal for Mary's feelings, but later on we see they make up, so it's okay.
Yeah, and I don't think that Angie realized how, Mary explains later that like both of her parents abandoned her, and like that's something that she's really sensitive about, is people abandoning her. And at first I was kind of like, why is Mary being so sensitive about this? Like it just didn't make sense to me, because it wasn't like Angie was defending Brittany against Mary. Like it really had nothing to do with Mary directly, what Angie was consoling Brittany about. So that kind of didn't make sense to me in that moment. But then once Mary explained it and really like laid her heart out here, I was like, oh, that's clearly just that's a trigger for her. Is people, feeling like people are going to abandon her and take, the other person's side, and kind of disregard Mary. And because that's happened to her before with the most important people to her. And so, once she explained that, I felt like I understood it. It seemed like the women understood it. Angie apologized, and there was a really touching scene actually when they made up. And I was really, really glad, because clearly that friendship means a lot to both of them. And at first, I was super skeptical of how real that friendship was, but now I am fully convinced that that's the real deal.
Yeah, and I also we saw earlier in the season how Mary went to Angie about Robert Jr. So that was another part. Like obviously Angie also didn't mention that like at dinner, which was good too. Like I mean, not like she's going to, but keeping that information between her and Mary really, I think, also solidifies that they are close and that they just had a misunderstanding with that with Mary having some past traumas that she was obviously not totally recovered from and like feeling that way again. So I'm glad that we saw that conversation that they were able to just overall like move past and accept that it was just in that moment that Angie wasn't meaning it for it to come across that way and they moved past it. So that was good to see.
No, 100%. I think the fact that Angie didn't reveal that ever throughout the season, cuz like it was on camera. Like she could have, I think, made an argument that Mary was making it public. It's on camera, it's fair game. Like when if they were fighting, like I could have seen a world where Angie did bring that up, and I would have really been on Mary's side there 100%. Like that would have been very wrong of her, but in my mind I was like, "Oh god, I could see a world where like they have a falling out and Angie goes for it and brings that up, and that's the end of their friendship." But I was really glad that she didn't. I think that says a lot about Angie and says a lot about their friendship. And I think that is, like you said, like that is a test, I think, for Mary, that she can fully trust Angie going forward, and that was a huge piece of information that she was able to confide in her, and that didn't get out until it aired.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually curious to see if anyone found out before the season aired or if that was kept private until.
I never heard anything. Like that was never something that leaked, like that
Yeah.
the best of my knowledge, while filming was happening or before it aired. Like I did not have any clue that that was going to be on the show, and I feel like I am pretty aware of things that leak like during filming. There was something between an argument that Lisa and Mary allegedly had during filming that never aired that was leaked. So I don't remember ever seeing anything about it.
Yeah. So it was kept secret, which was
Yeah.
good. And also at dinner, Meredith and Angie decide to try to move forward with their friendship. So that was also nice to see because obviously they've had some arguments this season, not just some big ones where Meredith kicked out Angie from her bar mitzvah. But it seems like they've tried to move past it and just overall kind of move on and not rehash the past.
Yeah. I was at a bar mitzvah party the other day, and all I could think about was Meredith's bar mitzvah, and they all I was like, I hope something crazy happens. Like I need somebody to get thrown out here. This is too tame. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm hopeful that at some point they can have a friendship. I mean, I feel like I could see it. To me, like I could see the two of them being friends. So I have a feeling that next season the two of them will continue to form a friendship. That's my prediction for season 6 of Salt Lake City, is that I think we will see a real friendship blossom between Angie and Meredith.
Yeah. No, I wanted to see that because I like them both, so I hope
I
that
do
they
too.
become friends. Well, speaking of Meredith, she asks Whitney about her accusations against Lisa for leaking the story about Whitney's jewelry company sourcing off of Alibaba, which Alibaba's back. And
Did it ever go
Meredith,
anywhere?
yeah, it didn't go anywhere, but I feel like I hadn't heard it in a while.
Yeah.
But then Meredith claims that she says the podcaster Up and Adam, who Whitney claimed gave her proof of this, contacted Meredith and told her a different story. So there was just a lot going on there. But what were your thoughts overall?
Yeah, I mean, I Adam, the podcaster, forgot his last name, but he hosts the podcast Up and Adam. He had stated when that episode aired that, oh, the phone call that you saw was kind of edited weirdly to make it seem like he confirmed that it was Lisa, but in reality he never said that, and he was basically calling Whitney a liar. So this isn't new. I didn't realize that this all like that he also confirmed that to somebody while filming was still going, and this was going to get brought up. I thought this was going to be like a reunion argument, but it seemed like yeah, Meredith. He had contact with Meredith, and he said that to her at the time, which actually makes me believe it a little bit more because I kind of thought that he saw the episode, thought he looked bad, and then started to backtrack. But the fact that he did that when they were still filming makes me think maybe maybe there is some truth to that. So I don't know. I think it's possible that Alibaba is copying Whitney's photos. I don't know why we all assume that it's the other way around because isn't that what Alibaba does? I don't know. I don't know much about Alibaba, but it's my understanding. So yeah, I mean, who knows? I'm sure we'll hear more about it at the reunion, get everybody's side of that, and hopefully that'll clear things up a bit.
Yeah, agreed. I feel like there's just a lot of the he said, she said of it all, and like we don't really know the full extent of it at this point. Because what we were saying also with the editing and everything with that too, it's like maybe conversations are getting left out that we're not hearing. So there's a lot there that we don't know.
Yeah.
But then Whitney says that she has proof that Lisa has fed Reality Von T's information in the past and admits she reached out to Monica about it. So that was another accusation against Lisa that obviously Lisa was not very happy to hear.
Yeah.
And that caused up a huge fight going on there at dinner as well. So, what are your
I
thoughts?
mean, so here's what I think. I don't think that Lisa was necessarily like feeding information to Reality Von Tease. I feel like Lisa was probably interacting with the account. Like we saw during that whole last season's reunion that like Angie had like sent like emoji reactions to Reality Von Tease posts that they tagged her in, like laughing emojis or whatever. And Monica tried to make that seem like, oh, do you want to talk about your involvement with Reality Von Tease? And it ended up like they showed the screenshots. Like it was literally just like her hearts and laughing and like nothing major. So I feel like Monica's version of like interacting with the account, being involved with the account is pretty loosey goosey. So I could have seen Monica like saying, confirming to Whitney that, oh, Lisa, yeah, Lisa interacted with the account. She was, uh, but in reality, it's not as salacious as it sounds. So that's kind of my guess with that. But yeah, I mean, the fact that Whitney reached out to Monica and is saying that to these women as if that's going to be something that they're impressed by or like, oh, well, that's a very credible source. Like these women hate her. Like I don't know what she thought that she was doing here. I don't think it worked the way that she thought it was going to.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like it can be taken out of context, like just like the claim that she made. Like, I don't think it was exactly what you're saying. Is like it's that much involvement. It could have been a reaction or whatever it was to reality volunteers that it was then taken a little bit out of context or extreme proportions there that made it sound like there was a lot more going on there, but I feel like really nothing really of that. Like it kind of I just wanna forget about reality Wanties almost. I'm like, "Why are they bringing this up again?" Like, I thought that was last season.
Monica loved it, I'm sure,
Yeah.
because I think that she was starting to the season was so good on its own without her that I think she was probably going a little bit crazy in her head thinking like, "Oh my god, maybe I'm not gonna be asked back because, like, the show's doing just fine without me," and I think she expected the season to flop without her, and I think a lot of people did that were fans of hers, and so the fact that it's doing just fine, if not better, without her, I think the fact that she was at least brought up here gives her something to grab onto, like, of, "Oh, they're still mentioning me a year later." So,
Yeah.
I don't think it was nearly as much as she thought it was gonna be, but it gives her a little bone to chew on.
Yeah. I'm sure that was good for her ego there. But it wasn't too much of a cameo.
No. They
But
didn't even
we
show any of the clips from last season, which I was kinda
yeah.
surprised by when they
No, they we
mentioned
were
her.
getting a lot of flashbacks in this season this episode, I
Yeah.
feel like, but they didn't show
I
that.
expected when she said, "I reached
Yeah.
out to Monica," I expected them to flash back to Monica, but I guess we all know who that is.
Yeah, but they didn't wanna show her, but they could talk about her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I mean, now let's get into, I would say, the meat of this conversation that's happening at dinner is
The hot
when
dog
Heather
costume of the episode, if you will.
yeah. Oh, yes. Well, Heather asks everyone to go around the table and share their text message that is the worst thing that they've said about someone else at the table. And then they have to the phone to the person who is it's about to have them read it out loud.
Would you ever
So,
do this?
no.
Who
Like,
would?
this is crazy.
I mean, the fact that they convinced all 8 of these women to do this
Yeah.
is actually kind of psychotic.
No.
I don't know of
When I
any
heard
other
it,
cast that would do this, which is why this show is so good, but, like, I can imagine the women of Beverly Hills being willing to do this or, like, any
no
of
way.
them.
Yeah. No, it's actually crazy. It feels like they're in middle school by doing this. Like, I was like, "What? Why are they actually agreeing to this?" And were producers involved in this, or was just Heather's idea? Like, it's
Oh, I'm
crazy.
sure producers. Like, I'm sure that Heather had a conversation with producers of like, what could we do to, like ignite some sparks here, to make it a finale worthy episode. So I'm sure that was a conversation with producers, but it certainly could have been, her idea originally and then they or some form of it and then they kind of workshopped it with her. Who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, because she
wild.
had it up as a plan. Like, she was like, I
Oh
got
yeah.
this what we're doing, and you guys all have to agree to it."
This
And
wasn't an on the spot, just
no.
like a spur of the moment idea that she had for sure.
No, no, for sure not. But we do hear everyone go through their text messages and have the people read it. So, shall we read through what everyone said?
Sure, we can go back and forth. Maybe we'll each read
Yeah.
every other one.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I can start with
Yeah,
Mary. So, Mary goes first, and then she gives her phone to Heather. And the message is Heather, from day one, I never felt accepted by her or included as part of this group. She changed when she became successful. I think it went to her head. She started getting aggressive and referring back to everything what she accomplished and threw it back into our faces. Instead of being grateful for her blessings, it changed her to become competitive and super mean, all while she enjoyed the feeling of fame. She has forgotten the people who helped her to get to where she is and who are truly happy and proud of her, like I have been and always will be.
I thought that Heather reacted pretty well to this. Actually, I felt like she pushed back on it a little. Like she said, that I don't see myself this way. I don't think it's fair because I was unhappy with myself at that time, and now I'm confident and feel better about myself. But she didn't yell at her. She didn't, start a fight with her. She just said, we'll burn it, forget it, move on. And I thought that Mary, handled it well also. I think that they seem like they'll be fine.
Yeah, agreed. I feel like also, especially because Heather was the one to bring this up, I think she had to react in a way of being like,
Yeah.
well, I know this is not great about me, but it was a text message. So, like, does she really mean it? Or, like, obviously, like, the message was sent and it was sent, but it wasn't like text messages can sometimes be more in the moment of what you're feeling, and then you can move past that
Yeah.
feeling of it. And so I think that's also what helped here. It wasn't like this has been like a constant thing that Mary has said this back all the time, so it was
Now
obviously.
yeah.
Yeah.
But now I don't know that I believe this is the worst text she has in her phone.
Yeah.
This is one of the ones that I'm like, I don't know. I think you could have found something worse because she's literally called Heather inbred.
Yeah.
Like I mean, let's be real here. She said significantly worse things about Heather. Like, and that's just Heather. She said worse things about all of these women, I'm sure, if I could think about it. But like, I'm sure she has worse things. Like, this really wasn't that mean. Like, she
No.
ended it by saying she's proud of her and always will be.
Yeah.
Like,
No, when I heard that message at first, I was like, "Oh, this was mean." Like, I was initially my reaction wasn't like, "Oh, that was rude." Like, I was confused why Mary read that one or brought that one up
yeah,
to Heather because I also didn't think it was that crazy, and that's why I think also that they moved on so quickly from it because it wasn't really that intense of a message.
yeah. Yeah, I think this is one of a few that I think, including our next one. Let me just
Yeah.
read our next one here. So, Brittany goes next. She hands her phone to Mary. The message reads, "I would like to invite Bronwyn over for tea instead of Mary tomorrow." I mean, that's clearly to a producer, right? Like, that's to a producer trying to schedule scenes for the next day, and she was supposed to invite Mary and got into a fight with Mary probably whenever this was, and decided that she wanted to invite Bronwyn instead. So, like, what? There's no possible way that that is anywhere on the spectrum of the meanest thing that she said about somebody in this group. Come on.
Yeah. No, that one, Brittany is just, I feel like I don't even know what to think of Brittany at this point
I
because
don't either.
she just goes up and down all the time. I'm like, what is she thinking? How does she feel about everyone? Like, I just don't know. And in this text message, just like this is the moment where you're supposed to air out stuff, and she's showing like the least drama related text ever. So Mary
Yeah.
was also funny. She was like, "Well, yeah, I don't want to go to your tea anyways."
Yeah, she was like, "Me too.
Yeah,
I hope you invite Bronwyn too."
yeah. So I don't know. Brittany definitely has some more juicy stuff on her phone that we're not seeing. I mean, she was recording some videos that what were those for?
Yeah, very
But
true.
I don't know. Everyone just gangs up on Brittany, which I also feel a little bit bad about sometimes, just because it's like obviously not nice to be like always attacked against, and like she is sometimes trying. It seems like so. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, with the bus recording, I definitely understand the women being upset about it. Of course, I mean, especially after everything they've been through with reality Von Tees, and part of that was Monica secretly recording Jen and posting those videos of her, and like doing drive-bys to their houses, and like, I mean, all this stuff that they weren't aware was going on right under their noses. And so I can completely understand how that would be triggering to them and how nobody wants to be secretly recorded like that because they're, because I've seen a lot of people say, like, this is so stupid. They're on a reality show. They're already being recorded. What's the difference? But it's a huge difference because that's Shed Media recording them. That's Bravo that they've agreed to have record them. That they know if they say certain personal things or like there's certain things that they're just not going to air that they can say in confidence that they know like this isn't going to make it to the TV show. But they're not agreeing to be recorded by Britney who could sell it to anybody who could use it for any purpose that she wants to. And so I completely understand that that's a total violation, but yeah, like I'm glad that at that time I think Whitney went and consoled her later on when they in this episode Mary Angie went and consoled her. Like I'm always glad for people to have somebody there that they can like to not feel like they're completely alone. But I think it was kind of deserved in that bus ride.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was drama, but it was good TV to watch.
Yeah.
But next up, the message is about Brittany. So from Bronwyn, She had texted this saying, Brittany is emotionally manipulative. She parentifies her children, trauma bonds and relationships, and is doing it to us all, or doing it to us. It is below her intelligence level, age, and maturity level, and it makes me feel nervous, furious, and embarrassed for her.
What does parentifies her children
I
mean?
don't know. When I heard that saying, or when they announced it, said it in the TV or in the episode, like I was also like, what does that even mean? But I don't know what
I
entirely.
mean, uh, I guess they feel like she's like babying them. I don't know what that means, but I mean I know the gist of what this all means. Like
Yeah,
that they feel like that she's kind of confusing in terms of like her relationship with Jared and her relation like everything with her kids of like that they're not talking to her because she's chosen men over them. Like I understand kind of like the gist of where this is all going, but I don't know that that specific part of it I completely understand. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean this wasn't that horrible either. Like I mean Brittany was upset about it, sure, but I feel like Bronwyn probably has worse. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Agreed. I feel like I don't know. Overall, we kind of already knew this about Brittany too. It's nothing like crazy that they haven't already said to her, or basically.
Yeah,
So it's like it's just about Brittany.
yeah,
We know she trauma dumps.
yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but oh yeah, next one.
yeah, so now we have one that I fully believe is the worst thing that Angie has in her phone. Like, I think everyone else was kind of like, let me choose one that's not going to, like, go too below the belt here, like, cause irreparable damage. Angie just said, here's the worst thing I've ever said about anybody in my life, hopefully. So this was a message that she sent to Heather about Bronwyn. Bronwyn seems nice. I like her business plan, marrying a guy who has one foot in the grave and one on a banana peel. But I like mine better. I'd rather be self made. She's nice but doesn't listen because her ears are stitched down to her face so tight she can't hear anything. She wears a hot dog outfit to remind us that she sucked her way to the top. I was shook. I was speechless. This was one of the most iconic moments in television history. Give her all the Emmys. Like every award possible. Make her the president of the United States. I don't care. This was incredible.
I know. It was just like it could have been written in a book, basically. Just
Yeah.
like a chapter for, or like it was like how to be mean to someone, like about their
Mhm.
character. That's what you would write. Like this is it.
Mhm. And the chapter will be called High Body Count Hair.
Yeah.
I mean, Angie's having a moment this season. Like, look, it's mean. As soon as she goes after somebody that I really am rooting for, I'm going to completely turn against her, and I know it's completely hypocritical. And I like Bronwyn actually. Like, I don't have anything against Bronwyn, but this is incredible. I have no
Yeah.
words.
No, and obviously, like, we've heard a lot about Bronwyn and her relationship with Todd, and, like, they talk about it a lot about the age difference, and there's no
Yeah.
prenup, like, all this stuff that I feel like we've heard a lot of their relationship, so it's just interesting, like, Angie talking to Heather about it being a business plan, like,
Hmm.
which just, like, a funny metaphor there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have nothing else to say about this. It was great. Great
And
moment.
now it seems like they
I
moved
was just
past it.
stunned.
I think also I like Bronwyn because she doesn't really hold it in very
Yeah.
hard, or at least, like, outwardly
Yeah.
show it that, like, obviously it's gonna affect her, but she seems very emotionally mature, and that, like, obviously she knew there's been bad things said about her, and she's been okay being around it with
Mhm.
people who've already said some of the things to her face. So, like, this text message, Angie was already embarrassed to read it, or to have her read it. So she knew it wasn't like, this is how Angie, like, really feels about me.
Yeah, and, like, I mean, this is why I think Bronwyn this is a testament to why Bronwyn fits in so well with this group because this whole group is so they are so good at is being able to go, like, deep, deep when they fight, and then the next season, and like, take an adequate amount of time to like stew over it, fight about it, whatever. Like they don't just the next episode move on, but like by the next season, they're able to move on. They don't say, I'm not gonna film with her, like it's me or her, I'm not gonna come back if she does. Like they don't do that. They just they go in there, they get it over with, they move on. And Bronwyn clearly is also able to do that because this is horrible. She could absolutely get a whole season's worth of drama out of this moment. Like she could go into next season fully anti Angie, this text crossed the line. But it doesn't seem like she's going to do that. It seems like she and Angie are fine now. They've been on like red carpets together and like they're seem to be in a fine place. So
The Van Leeuwen
I love
event.
that. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about actually. That they
Yeah.
were both there. They took a picture together. Like they seemed to be okay. And
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see at the reunion, but yeah, I think good on Bronwyn uh for taking this as well as she did.
Yes, agreed. Well, then we hear Lisa's message about Meredith from last year. She said, I feel like Meredith digs up information to weaponize it. It's fucking dirty and I don't like it.
I mean, this to show you how minuscule this was. It didn't even make the Bravo episode. This
Yeah.
was only on the Peacock version. They didn't even air it on Bravo. So like, I mean, this is stupid. They've already made up. Like they're fine now. Like this is from 3 years ago, probably. Or no, they said it was from last year. But like, we've seen Lisa say so much worse about Meredith. She had a whole uh hot mic moment where she said that she effed half of New York, and like, I mean, this is this was a gimme.
Yeah. No, this one they really didn't do much. I can see why they cut it from the show
Yeah,
episode. Yeah.
yeah. Well, Heather's message about Whitney is next. Whitney is a low life, dirty piece of blank. She sold her soul for fame and recognition. She's a snake, and I should have never trusted her. I've been so stupid and loyal for carrying her stupid Wild Rose products, even though I've never sold an effing one. I mean, this was a good like this worked for me in terms of fitting the assignment. I felt like this was pretty mean,
Yeah.
but
I mean, and we already know that Heather doesn't like Whitney, so
yeah, I mean, they're in a weird place. Like I feel like they are fine, but I think deep down they don't trust each other and they
yeah.
probably never will again, but I think that they're able to coexist just fine. I mean, they were best friends for the first 2 seasons of the show. They're cousins.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, they did not know they were cousins for a long time apparently, but, like, before they went on the show, they knew, I think. But they're technically related. They were best friends the first 2 seasons. Like, they
Wow.
were I mean, Bad Weather, Whitney and Heather, Bad Weather. Like, they were like this. And then season 3, they towards the beginning of the season, they showed a bit of a flashback to this, but they were on a cast trip and Whitney was saying a rumor about Lisa, and Lisa thought that she was lying, and Whitney needed Heather to confirm that she had also heard this rumor to back her up, to be like, it's not just me, I'm not making this up. Like Heather heard it too, and Heather denied hearing it, and that broke the trust of both of them. So they've never really fully been able to move on from that, but they seem to be trying to go in that direction.
Yeah. Well, it seems like Whitney kinda just, like, took it and didn't cause too much of a blow up about it at the dinner table too, which was fine to see. Like, it was like, "Okay, like, we can move on, bury it."
Mhm.
And we did not see that, though, with the next message that was sent. So, Whitney's message to Angie about Lisa was, so I was at a party with Justin, and a woman approached us saying that if we ever wanted to bring in a third, she is our girl. In fact, Lisa and John can vouch for her because she has made out with Lisa while jerking off John. Well,
Oh boy. I
Lisa
mean, this was like
was not happy.
no. The difference here, this is why I think this went too far. Because this was a new rumor that nobody had heard before. And like all of the other ones were just like she is a bitch, I don't like her. Like they're feelings. They're like venting feelings about somebody. This is actually starting a rumor.
Mhm.
Like this is a little bit different than anything any of the other messages. As mean, as nasty as some of them were, they were not starting a new rumor that nobody had heard about on TV. So I do 100% think that this went too far. But then Lisa's reaction also kind of went too far when she started bringing Angie into it. And I mean, look, analogies never go well on Housewives. Jersey fans will know that Jackie made an analogy to Teresa that went on for years as a feud. That was clearly an analogy, but Teresa did not understand it. It was about her daughter. All she heard was her daughter's name and went off on Jackie, and that was the end of things until last season. But this one to me wasn't quite as clear that it was an analogy. Now I think watching it back, I understand that it was an analogy, but I do think in that moment it wasn't quite made as clear as Jackie's was on Jersey. So like I can understand that Angie would be fully upset about this, but I hope that watching it back now, she's able to see, okay, she wasn't saying that Sean did any of those things. It was an analogy, but she should have just made an analogy about Whitney and not brought Angie into it randomly.
Yeah, that was interesting. I didn't even like when she was bringing Angie there. I was like, what is this about?" Like it just should be about Winnie's message, not bringing in anyone else's drama or fake drama that she was trying to bring up too.
Did you
But
understand that
or
it was an analogy when you watched it?
I didn't know it was an
Okay,
analogy.
see, so yeah, like, it wasn't super obvious, like, when I first watched it, I didn't quite understand that either, actually, but
Well,
then
yeah,
when I
so
watched
I
it
was watching
back.
it. I was watching it with my friend Elaine, and she was like, "Oh, I know what that is," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know what that was." Like that, like the jerking a circle. Like I don't
Oh,
like what was it called?
a circle jerk.
Circle jerk. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
apparently that's a
Well,
thing.
we'll move off of that.
Yeah.
But, like, I didn't understand the first time that I watched it that she was saying like, it was basically saying, "Well, what if, you heard that about John? How would you
Uh,
feel?" Like, and I'll compare it again to the Jersey example. So, like, Teresa had on a few years ago on Jersey. This is the premiere episode. Teresa had said about Jackie's husband. She'd kind of gone around at Jackie's birthday party and said like, "I heard that her husband is like sleeping around with other women." I think it was something like that. And then Jackie heard that Teresa was saying this, goes to Teresa's house and confronts her about it, and says, "How would you feel if I'm trying to think of the exact wording Jackie said. Like, well, I heard that Gia does coke in the bathroom at parties, and that's Teresa's daughter. And Teresa went off on her, and everyone was saying, no, she hasn't actually heard that. That's an analogy. Like, you're saying this about my husband. I'm saying this about your daughter. How do you
mhm,
feel when it happens to you?
yeah.
That was clearly an analogy because it's her daughter. Like, that's clearly not a rumor that anybody's heard.
Mhm.
Like this, I felt like it wasn't as clear in the moment because like it was in the heat of the moment, and I think like she just didn't do the proper like preparation for making an analogy that she should have, and so it wasn't as obvious, and so I think everybody was like, well, now you're doing the exact same thing to Whitney that Whitney just did to, or to Angie that Whitney just did to you. So I think
Yeah.
if she just done it to Whitney instead of Angie, I think that people would have understood it more because they're in a fight. Whereas
Yeah.
Angie, that's like, why bring a third person into this?
I know. And then Lisa got up and stormed off because she didn't want to talk about it anymore and just I feel like I mean, I don't know. Like it's obviously like where they were going through their text messages and having to share this, but this one did really hit Lisa hard. So she wanted to remove herself from it and then everyone started leaving. So it was just the top domino effect there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was, and actually, what was funny? In all the previews for this episode, we, like, saw them, like, in bed being like, "Do you think you could ever make up with her?" Like, we saw these, like, scenes that would never made the episode, so, like, when the episode ended there, I was like, "Wait, what?" I thought there was so much more, like, I thought they were gonna follow them back to their rooms and, like, we were gonna see the fallout of this, but we never did, so I don't know why they showed all that in the preview and then never did in the episode, but it was kind of an abrupt ending.
Yeah. No, I was thinking that too. I was like, "Wait, it's over now?" Like, I feel like we need to close this up. But
Well,
I
we
mean,
have the reunion for that.
we do have the reunion. And it was funny, like, all of the little clips of them, like, showing the statements of, like, where, like,
Yeah, I
their
call it the
updates,
eulogies. That's what
the
it's like, their
eulogies.
little, like, season eulogies.
Yeah, it was this did they do this last year too?
They always do.
Oh,
It's,
they always
like, from season 1 of OC, I think they've done this,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about it. But those were funny, which I liked
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're funny.
but yes,
I
well,
don't remember what any of them said really, but yeah.
they were good. Well, yeah, so this week we do get the reunion. So, do you have any predictions of what's gonna happen this week?
Yeah, so I haven't read, like, summaries of kinda how they're breaking down. Usually, they'll say, like, how they're breaking down, what topics they're covering in each episode, so I haven't looked at that yet, but, yeah, I it sounds like so from what we know, from what they've said, everyone ended up going to dinner after the reunion except for Bronwyn, and I think maybe Mary also didn't go, but everyone else seemed to go to dinner together, which little surprising that like Whitney and Lisa would go to dinner together, Whitney and Meredith. So it seems like maybe there's some reconciliation there between Lisa and Whitney, and that's interesting because it that didn't seem likely going into the reunion, but I'm interested to see how they reached that point of being fine enough with each other to feel comfortable doing that. So, we'll see.
Yeah. No, I want them to talk more about I feel like after what happened, the dinner conversation, because if we didn't get to see
Yeah.
that, like, I feel like there's stuff that we missed. But yeah, I guess, I mean, we'll just have to clear up a lot of stuff that Alibaba, like, all the things that
Yeah.
I feel like came up in this finale. But
Yeah.
I'm
I've heard
excited to
that
see.
Lisa has a lot of proof. That's what I think we also heard was that Lisa brings a lot of receipts, proof, timeline screenshots. So, we'll see what happens there, and maybe Whitney, realizes that it wasn't Lisa and apologizes, and that's how they're able to move on. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for that. And do you have any cast changes for next season that you want to see, or do you think they'll be the same?
I think bring everyone back.
Okay.
I'm totally fine with this being a season with, maybe try one. I think it's always good to bring in like one newbie because I am a big proponent of never keeping the same exact cast for more than 2 seasons in a row at the very most, because I think we've seen in the past that that has never worked out well when, like, you try to keep the exact same cast for too long. The dynamics get stale, things, start to feel very overproduced, then it becomes to the point where you can't bring in anyone new because everyone else has such a long history that anyone new coming in feels like they're trying to kind of break through this long history of these women that they just can't, and it feels awkward. So I think it's already a pretty big cast though. So I don't know, but like Maylee's not going to come back. Remember Maylee? Poor Maylee. But I could see them trying to bring in somebody as kind of her replacement, probably not full time, but maybe just as a new friend of to kind of spice things up a little bit. But we have Brittany and Bronwyn that I do not think they should make Brittany full time. Keep her as a friend. I think that's a good place for her. Um, so yeah, I could see them maybe trying to bring in like one more friend of, but that's about it.
Yeah. No, I like this cast, so I hope that they keep it the same, and maybe what you're saying, bring in one other person. But it was a great season,
Great
and we
season.
still have the finale, or we still have the reunion to look forward to this week. But then have to wait till next season, which will be
Yeah.
sad because Salt Lake City was amazing.
Well, we have three weeks, three reunions to coming up,
Oh, true.
so long time. Almost a month to
True.
go.
A lot more to come of the reunions,
Yes.
but the meat of the episodes are done.
Yes.
So, well, thanks so much for listening, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on Instagram at Let's Chat Reality. And now that TikTok, I guess, is not banned, you can follow us there too.
Who
Let's
knows
Chat
what's happening
Reality.
with that?
I don't know what's happening with TikTok, but it went away for 12 hours and it's back.
Longest 12
But
hours of my life.
I know that was a sad time. But yes, we're so glad that you guys are listening, and we'll be with y'all again this week with another surprise episode we'll be dropping. So make sure you subscribe to hear that.
Yes. Stay tuned for that. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.